The London sky, a perpetual canvas of muted grays and the occasional defiant streak of blue, did little to brighten the mood on Cranbrook Road. Malik Okafor, barely a year into his new life in the sprawling metropolis, felt the city's cool indifference keenly. His small flat, though warm, often amplified the distant hum of traffic and the silence of neighbors who rarely exchanged more than a curt nod. Back in Lagos, the air hummed with constant chatter, the scent of suya mingled with the exhaust fumes, and the laughter of children spilled from every compound. Here, in this pocket of East London, a different kind of air hung heavy, one thick with unspoken grievances and unspoken distances. Malik worked long shifts at a local supermarket, his easy smile often met with wary politeness. He was a keen observer, and what he observed on Cranbrook Road troubled him. Mrs. Henderson, a formidable woman with a perpetually pursed mouth and a well-tended rose garden, eyed the Khan family's boisterous children with thinly veiled disapproval. The Khans, in turn, kept their voices low when Mrs. Henderson was within earshot, but their whispers carried the sting of resentment. Across the street, the Rodriguez family, new arrivals like Malik, seemed to live in a protective bubble, their curtains always drawn, their interactions limited to quick dashes to and from their front door. Even the local teens, a mix of backgrounds, gravitated towards their own cliques, often exchanging glares across the park benches. It was the abandoned lot between the corner shop and the laundromat that truly caught Malik's eye. A patch of forgotten land, choked with nettles and discarded crisp packets. It was an ugly scar on an already lackluster street. But Malik saw something else. He saw the potential. He saw the rich, dark earth beneath the weeds yearning to be tilled. He saw the sun even on a cloudy day reaching for it. He saw the blueprint for connection. He remembered his grandmother's compound back home, where the central yard wasn't just a space, but a stage for life, for eating, for storytelling, for mending broken fences and nurturing dreams. He thought of the vibrant colors of hibiscus and bougainvillea, the scent of mangoes ripening on the tree. A community garden, he realized, wasn't just about growing plants. It was about growing people. The idea, once birthed, took root in Malik's mind with the stubbornness of a baobab tree. He spent his evenings researching, his fingers flying across his small laptop, absorbing everything about community gardens, council permissions, and urban agriculture. He learned about meanwhile leases and pocket parks and the myriad rules that governed every square inch of London. His first attempt was a polite letter to the local council, outlining his vision for a vibrant green space, a place for all residents. The reply, when it came, was a polite but firm rejection, citing lack of funding and environmental concerns, code, Malik suspected, for too much hassle. He wasn't deterred. Malik Okafor had not left the dust of Lagos behind to be defeated by red tape. He spent his next few weekends knocking on doors, armed with a crudely drawn sketch of his dream garden. He started with Mrs. Henderson, who eyed him through a crack in her doorframe. "A garden, you say?" Her voice was as sharp as a thorn. "What do you know about English gardens, young man?" "I know about growing things, ma'am," Malik replied, his smile unwavering. "And I know about bringing people together." She grunted, a sound that could mean anything from disdain to grudging curiosity, and closed the door. The Khans were more welcoming, offering him a cup of sweet chai, but Mr. Khan, a man burdened by the weight of too many worries, waved his hand dismissively. "People here, they don't want to be together. They want their privacy. Better to leave things as they are." The Rodriguez family didn't even open their door, simply peering through the window until Malik moved on. The teenagers he approached just laughed, suggesting the lot would be better suited for a skate park. Malik felt a familiar ache of disappointment, but he also felt the stubborn resolve of his ancestors. He thought of the stories his grandfather told, of making something out of nothing, of finding strength in the face of indifference. He decided to bypass the council's official channels and start with a more direct approach. One Saturday morning, armed with a spade, a rake, and a packet of sunflower seeds he'd bought with his last few pounds, Malik arrived at the abandoned lot. The weeds stood shoulder-high, a defiant green army. He took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth and urban grime filling his lungs, and began to dig. It was back-breaking work. For hours, he toiled under the indifferent gaze of the terraced houses. A few children stopped to stare, their faces smudged with curiosity. An old man walked his dog past, shaking his head. Mrs. Henderson's curtains twitched. By lunchtime he had cleared a small patch no bigger than a rug. He smoothed the earth, patted it down, and carefully planted his sunflower seeds, whispering a prayer over them. It was a tiny act of defiance, a silent declaration of hope. The next day he was back, and the day after that. He saved what little money he could to buy more tools, some compost, and a few packets of calendula and marigold seeds, chosen for their resilience and bright, cheerful colors. His persistent efforts soon became the talk of Cranbrook Road. Not always favorable talk. Mrs. Henderson lodged a complaint with the council about unauthorized digging and potential disruption. A group of teenagers, bored and restless, spray-painted a crude graffiti tag on a makeshift fence Malik had erected around his small patch. One afternoon, as Malik was watering his fledgling seedlings, a small boy, no older than 6, approached him. He was one of the Khan children, Omar. "What are you growing?" Omar asked, his eyes wide. "Hope," Malik replied with a wink. "And soon flowers. Do you want to help?" Omar hesitated, then nodded vigorously. He carefully picked up a small watering can Malik offered and began to water the plot with exaggerated precision. Malik watched him, a warmth spreading through his chest. A tiny seed of connection. Omar started coming every day, bringing his younger sister Layla, who insisted on planting a single wobbly tomato seedling. Their parents, Mr. and Mrs. Khan, would watch from their window, their expressions softening slightly. Then came the incident with the teenagers. One evening, Malik found his carefully nurtured seedlings trampled, the small fence broken, and his spade bent out of shape. He felt a wave of despair wash over him, heavy and suffocating. He sat amidst the destruction, his head in his hands. Suddenly, a voice, gruff and unexpected, broke the silence. "What happened here?" Malik looked up to see Mrs. Henderson standing at the edge of the lot, a look of uncharacteristic concern on her face. "Kids," Malik said, his voice flat. Mrs. Henderson tooted. "Hooligans. No respect. Well, don't just sit there. Get up." She pointed a bony finger at the broken spade. "You'll need to straighten that. And I have some spare fencing in my shed. We'll fix this." Malik stared at her, dumbfounded. Don't look so surprised," she snapped, though a faint blush touched her cheeks. "Someone has to teach these plants some manners." She then paused, looking at the trampled plot. "And I suppose it does look a bit empty without your daft little flowers." That night, Malik, Mrs. Henderson, and even Omar and Layla, armed with flashlights and a shared sense of indignation, worked to repair the damage. Mrs. Henderson, surprisingly agile for her age, supervised the fence repair, pointing out the best way to secure the posts. News of the vandalism and the subsequent act of collective repair spread through Cranbrook Road. It seemed to spark something. The next day, 2 of the teenagers who had initially scoffed at Malik's idea, Winter and Erica, approached him looking sheepish. "We heard about the, Winter mumbled, kicking at a loose stone. "Sorry about your plants." "Yeah," Erica added, avoiding eye contact. We didn't do it, but we know who did. And it was a rubbish thing to do." Malik smiled gently. "Well, you can help us plant some new ones. And maybe help us keep an eye on things." Winter and Erica exchanged a glance, then a hesitant nod. Winter, surprisingly, knew a lot about carpentry and offered to build stronger raised beds. Erica, an aspiring artist, volunteered to paint a mural on the corrugated iron wall bordering the lot. Slowly, painstakingly, the garden began to bloom. Mr. Khan, impressed by Malik's tenacity and seeing his children flourish in the garden, finally offered his help. He was a skilled plumber and rigged up a rainwater harvesting system, ensuring the plants had a steady supply. Mrs. Khan brought out trays of homemade pakoras and samosas for the volunteers, her cautious smile replaced by genuine warmth. Even the Rodriguez family, drawn by the vibrant colors and the sounds of laughter, cautiously emerged, offering their strong backs to help with the heavier lifting. They brought recipes for empanadas to the shared meals, introducing new flavors to the community. The council, perhaps hearing about the growing community spirit, sent an official to inspect the progress. They were met not with an unkempt lot, but a thriving garden bursting with life. Sunflowers now towered, their golden heads nodding in the breeze. Marigolds and calendula painted swathes of orange and yellow. Raised beds overflowed with lettuce, tomatoes, and herbs. A small, handcrafted sign, painted by Erica, proudly declared it Cranbrook Community Garden. The official left, not with a notice of infraction, but with impressed murmurs about community engagement initiatives. The garden became more than just a place to grow vegetables. It became a neutral ground, a place where differences melted away under the unifying sun. Mrs. Henderson, once wary of the Khan children, now patiently taught Omar the proper way to deadhead a rose. Mr. Khan shared his knowledge of companion planting with Mrs. Henderson, who listened with surprising interest. Winter and Erica, once aimless, found purpose in the garden, organizing film nights with a projector and screen for local kids, using the garden as an open-air cinema. The Rodriguez family, whose English was still a work in progress, learned new words alongside new neighbors, sharing stories in a mix of gestures and broken phrases that somehow conveyed more than perfect grammar ever could. Malik often stood at the edge of the garden, watching the scene unfold, a profound sense of peace settling over him. He saw teenagers teaching younger children how to plant seeds. He heard the lively chatter of adults from different backgrounds sharing tea and garden-grown cucumbers. He saw hands reaching across invisible boundaries, pulling weeds, planting dreams, building a community out of the rich, dark earth. One sunny afternoon, a small harvest festival was held in the garden. Tables groaned under the weight of freshly picked produce, homemade jams, and dishes from every corner of the world. Music played softly, and children chased each other between the rows of flourishing plants. Mrs. Henderson, in a rare moment of public sentiment, raised a glass of homemade elderflower cordial. To Malik, she announced, her voice surprisingly clear. He came here, a stranger, and saw something we had all forgotten. He saw a garden not just of flowers but of friendship. And he taught us all how to grow. A chorus of cheers and applause filled the air. Malik, blushing, simply smiled. He had come to London seeking a new life, and in helping others find theirs, he had found his own. He was no longer just an immigrant, a supermarket assistant, or a man from Lagos. He was Malik Okafor, the seed planter, the bridge builder, the heart of Cranbrook Community Garden. As the sun began to dip, painting the London sky in hues of orange and purple, Malik watched the community he had nurtured, now thriving and vibrant. The garden, once an abandoned scar, was now a beating heart. And in its verdant embrace, Cranbrook Road had finally found its own beautiful, blossoming purpose. That will be all for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. Goodbye.